Hey guys, third live stream in a day. I only scheduled this 15 minutes ago. I was just catching up on the latest of what's been going on in the world of Bryan Kohberger. I've purposefully ignored that case for the last few days because it was getting on my last nerve last week, my very last nerve. So I just took a break from it for a few days because it's another one of those cases that has just become filled with ridiculous conspiracy theories, and the Bryan Kohberger is innocent parade is quite sickening. Of course, I do know that everybody is innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. But when the evidence stacks up pre-trial, you've got to ask yourself, is this guy really innocent? And in my mind, no, he isn't. No, he isn't. So I don't know whether I'm now in the minority of people or whether it's just a ridiculous minority on social media who are dominating this case now. This case has attracted a lot of crazies. It's attracted a lot of conspiracy theories, a lot of ridiculous hounding of people before Kohberger was arrested. But now that Kohberger is in custody and we're heading towards trial, it seems that there's no abating whatsoever. And this is playing right into Bryan Kohberger's defence team's hands. It's exactly what they want. They want to muddy the waters. They're doing their job. Let's be clear. Let's be clear. Everyone's entitled to a defence, and they are doing their job. They're throwing everything, including the kitchen sink, at this case, hence the thumbnail of a kitchen sink. But what gets me is that there's so many gullible people out there, some of whom who in true crime circles are actually quite well known, who are falling for this hook, line and sinker. And I just don't get it. I don't get how people can fall for this. I really don't. And now ultimately it will be the jury that decides on the balance of probability if there is any at all, any reasonable doubt in the case. They will find it, and they will say that Kohberger is not guilty. But he is. So yeah. So many bewildered people, quite frankly, who should know better. They should know better. Hello from Canada, says Marcy. Hello. Where are all the people at? Well, they're coming in slowly, but they know that I don't peddle conspiracy theories. So you see, my live streams are not entertaining enough for people because I'm talking about facts and stuff, and they don't like that. You know, it's not entertaining because, you know, true crime is a big soap opera to a lot of people. So they want the ridiculous. They do. Hello, Plant Lady, Gabber, Cosmic Shy, Criminal Med, Laced in Chains, True Rush, Bethany Sage, Nurse Fifi, Sassy, Petunia, Beach Fairy. Yes, I am spoiling you today, Beach Fairy. Yes, I am. I didn't plan to do this at all. I was just reading a few articles on Kohberger, catching up on the latest court documents, and I thought, oh, I just want to have a whinge. That's all I'm doing. I'm having a whinge. I'm going to show you some things, though. Dana, Mums and More. Who else have we got? AJ, Cindy, Little One, Christina, James. Bloody facts, I know. They always get in the way. They do. I heard it's 1:30 Idaho time, 1:30 p.m. So unless it's been changed, that's the time in the court documents. 1:30 p.m. Idaho time. So I assume that's Mountain Time. So I won't be live for the actual court hearing because I'm already tired. It's 20 to 8 in the PM for me. So I'll be tucked up in bed. I will be watching it because they are allowed to have cameras in court. I don't know whether they can have them live or whether it's one of those situations where they film it and then they release it soon after. I don't know, but I'll be watching it. I'll just be in the comfort of my bed rather than streaming it. Yes, they are going for the death penalty. Yay. They are. They are. Vivian, hello. Carrie from Nevada. Hello, hello. CC, Karen, Ali, Forensics Lover. Who else have got? Strawberry Wine. I think that's it. I think I've said hello to everyone. All right. Okay, I want to show you some things. Have you seen this? This is interesting. Kohberger was arrested. He was arrested in 2014 for the absolute crime of the century, stealing his sister's phone. He was actually arrested. So I'm going to play you this. It's only 1 minute 45 from ABC News. And everything that I'm going to show you, I'll link in the description box later on. Like I said, I only scheduled this with 15 minutes. So I didn't have time to sort out all these links. And then there's a little bit more in the article. So this is ABC News. I just find this funny. All right, let's play it. Let me know that sounds okay.
Prosecutors now say they plan to seek the death penalty against Bryan Kohberger, who is due in court this morning. Kenna Whitworth has the latest with exclusive new reporting.
This morning, Idaho murder suspect Bryan Kohberger heading back to court as prosecutors announced they will now seek the death penalty for the quadruple murders of 4 Idaho college students. His defense...
That wasn't the thing that I listened to before. Oh, here it is. It's at the end. All right. We'll play it from here.
Exclusively learning this was not Bryan Kohberger's first arrest. According to records reviewed by ABC News, Kohberger was arrested in 2014 for allegedly stealing his sister's phone. And it was Kohberger's own father, Michael, who called police. Documents show Michael told authorities his then 19-year-old son had struggled with drug addiction and had just exited rehab and rejoined the family. The records say Kohberger was charged with misdemeanor theft. He served no jail time.
Now, Monroe County, Pennsylvania offers first-time offenders the opportunity to have records expunged upon completion of probation. Kohberger will appear in court in Idaho later this afternoon. Robin.
Thank you, Kate.
Huh. Isn't that funny? Because we've all been saying, oh, he's got no criminal record. You know, we can find it in a traffic infraction or two, and nothing. No arrests, nothing. And yeah, he's had his record expunged because he was a first-time offender. So yeah, his dad called the cops on him. I just found that funny. I thought, given the gravity of the situation that he's in now, you know, the fact that his dad called the cops on him for a stolen phone, I think, you know, his dad was trying to just shock him into the right side of life. You know, his dad was a little bit of tough love, I think. And, well, it didn't work out. I guess it did. I guess it did work out for a few years. But, you know, Bryan Kohberger, drug addict as a teenager, really struggling with life. We had all those posts that he was making on that forum, you know, all about his dark thoughts, which we talked about, a good few months ago now. And I think he's had all this anger and rage at the world built up. And who knows, maybe the stolen phone was to buy drugs, or maybe the stolen phone was to get at his sister out of, you know, the last stages of teenage rebellion, or maybe, I don't know, maybe he just needed drug money. But there's a little bit more in this article, just a little bit more here. So according to the records, I haven't seen these records, by the way. I'm only taking this from ABC. According to the records, Michael Kohberger, that's Bryan's dad, told law enforcement Bryan had warned him not to do anything stupid. Ooh. After learning his son had taken the phone, adding that his son had struggled with drug addiction. Kohberger's earlier run-in with the law, described in these records, is only now coming to light as he prepares to defend himself against charges that he killed 4 University of Idaho students. According to the records, Bryan Kohberger was 19 when he was arrested. He served no jail time. There's now no public record of that arrest or the outcome of the case. Monroe County, Pennsylvania offers first-time offenders the opportunity to enter into a pre-trial program called Accelerated Rehabilitative Disposition, which allows for charges to be dropped and the records to be expunged once the accused successfully completes probation. I wonder whether the police can see those records still. Like, they might not be part of public record, but whether the police can still see them. I think the police will still be able to see them. Grand Theft iPhone. That's funny. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, his dad had had enough. You know, he's probably had 2 sisters who were doing okay. And then they have Bryan, who's this troubled soul, you know, taken to using heroin at the age of 16 and, you know, making people buy new pots and pans if he was to eat anything at all. Just let him starve to death. But yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy to think, you know, something so minor. Right, the average parent, would they call the cops? You know, if they knew, you know, if one of my kids has stolen the other's phone, I'd deal with it. I'd deal with it. It would be tough love, but it would be completely more tough than the police would have. The police would offer. She does. She needs to sit down. She does. She's thinking too much. She's doing her job, right? Look, everyone's entitled to defense. She's doing her job. She's just getting on my nerves now. But what's getting on my nerves more is the people who believe it. Of course, the defense are going to try everything. They are going to throw the kitchen sink. And I'm actually pleased that the defense are trying everything. I really am, because at least he can say that he had a decent defense team. This is a capital case now. Capital punishment is on the table. So, you know, it's up to the defense to try everything and throw the kitchen sink at it, to find every single loophole. However, the people who believe it are falling right into their hands. That's true. That's absolutely true. You are so right. You don't know how many other aggravating things he might have done to the family. Absolutely. His dad might be just completely sick of him. And said, right, you do one more thing to this family, and I'm calling the cops and I'm letting them deal with you. And he did. Maybe. We don't know. We weren't there. But you can just kind of imagine it, can't you? Okay, so, all right. Martin Soto Diaz, an attorney representing the Kohberger family, declined to comment on the record described the earlier arrest. The district attorney's office in Monroe County also had no comment. So I don't know how ABC have got hold of this. You know, if there's no public record, it must be somebody on the inside who's given them the heads up that this charge even existed. But it's interesting that Kohberger applied to join the police, to do some kind of training or something with the police in Washington. So that's why I asked. I wonder whether the police can see the record. If they can, then he'd have absolutely no chance of joining any law enforcement agency. Even if it was a spent conviction, they still wouldn't have you. They certainly wouldn't in the UK. I don't know about the US, but I'm only going off my experience in the UK. If you have any form of record whatsoever, even if it's a spent conviction, you're not joining law enforcement, you're not joining the prison service. There's so many careers that are, nope, we don't want you. Go somewhere else. We don't want you. That's what it's like here. Okay, all right. So we get on to what's really happening now, here and now. So yesterday, Idaho prosecutors announced that they intend to seek the death penalty against Kohberger. So technically speaking, he could face a firing squad. Technically, because Idaho are bringing that in. Do you remember all this kerfuffle that went on a couple of months ago now, that they can't get the drugs for the lethal injection? So they were bringing back into law the firing squad. Did he score pot at the house, or is that a rumour? It's a rumour. We've no way of knowing. All these things that are doing the rounds, I mean, it could be true. It could be pot. I've speculated on it in previous videos, honestly. Did he know that house because he was buying drugs there? Possibly. But it is very much a rumour. We don't know. It's all just a speculation. Yeah, I want to be as well. I'd be very happy. I'd be very happy to be the sole firer. Very happy. Because do you know the origins of the firing squad? Do you know what the origins is of the firing squad? They get several shooters so that they don't know who fires the lethal bullet, so that no one person shoulders the guilt of taking someone else's life. That's allegedly how firing squads were invented. I don't know whether that's true. That's what I learned at school. But maybe that was a very tamed down way of explaining executions. I don't know. But yeah, some people think that the firing squad is to make sure they die quickly, which may be true. But yeah, I wouldn't have any qualms whatsoever of taking someone's life who had been found guilty in a court of law for a quadruple murder. I'd have no qualms whatsoever. No qualms whatsoever. Okay, so I think that's all really. It's an interesting quote here. You want to get all the puzzle pieces figured out, even if you keep finding new pieces, said ABC News law enforcement contributor Richard Frankel, a retired senior FBI official and former prosecutor in New York City. You're working to figure out how it all fits together. That's what was doing in the early days of the case. Like, who is this guy? What's his profile like? Every single little bit of information, how does it fit into the overall puzzle? And I think what we're saying is that he had probably decent parents, a decent family, but for whatever reason, he was troubled and he got into drugs and seemingly clawed his way back and was maybe going to go on to have a decent life, get a PhD in criminal justice and get a job and be a functional member of society. But deep down, I think from his teenage years, he was harboring these really dark fantasy of committing the ultimate sin. They should allow family members to be on the firing squad. I would want to be. Yeah, I would want to be as well. Okay, let's look at the court documents. This is what's really got on my nerves, to be quite honest with you. This is the Idaho Court Records place, the Idaho Judicial Branch, and this is all the documents that have been released now in the Kohberger case. It's a lot. State of Idaho versus Bryan C. Kohberger. And last week, the prosecution, well, this goes back a while, this goes back a few months, that the defense keeps filing motions requesting the discovery from the prosecution, right? And they dutifully respond every single time. The prosecution, in a very timely manner, respond saying, we've provided this, and this, and we are legally not obliged to provide this and this. We are legally not obliged to provide certain things that the defense is asking for. It's out of the scope of law. It's not that the prosecutors are purposefully hiding things, which is what people seem to believe, because that fits some kind of narrative that Bryan Kohberger is innocent and he's having this really bad time through the criminal justice system. No, he isn't. He isn't at all. Right? He's not got cuffs on. He's not got a prison uniform on when he turns up into court. He's looking well. He's smiling. He's got his suit on. Compare how Kohberger looks in court to how Richard Allen from the Delphi case looks in court, like shackled with his hands and his feet, like shuffling along, like in shackles. Richard Allen is innocent till proven guilty in a court of law. Yet he's on 23-hour lockdown and he's being treated like he's already been convicted. And when he goes to court, he's got a shock vest on even. Not only is he shackled, but if he tries to get away, he's got a shock vest on. That's not a bulletproof vest that Richard Allen was wearing at his last court appearance. That was a shock vest. They can give him electric shocks if he misbehaves. So compare that. So that's one potential child killer, which is dreadful. And I'm not saying that I believe that Richard Allen is not guilty. Not saying that. But what I am saying is there's less evidence in the PCA. There's less evidence that's come out against Richard Allen than has come out against Kohberger. But yet everybody is jumping on the defense of Bryan Kohberger when Kohberger is having a great day out in his Sunday best suit. How is this working? How is this working in people's minds? This is why this case now is getting on my last nerve. Maybe he is. Maybe he is. Maybe in Richard Allen's case, maybe he's a terrible person. Maybe he's treating the prison guards. He's not in a jail. He's in a prison. Maybe he's treating the guards with contempt. Maybe he's horrible. Maybe he's not telling his defense the truth. Maybe his defense are feeling sorry for him and Richard Allen is manipulating everybody. All right, maybe that's true. But shouldn't we be doing like for like? If Richard Allen, who is not yet convicted, is brought to court in a shock vest and he's brought to court shackled, shouldn't we be doing the same to everybody? Shouldn't we be doing the same to Kohberger, who is accused, not convicted, but accused of a quadruple murder? Shouldn't we be treating him the same? Shouldn't he be turning up in court in his prison garb and with cuffs on? Maybe not. Maybe not. But why is Richard Allen? I'm just comparing. I'm just comparing two comparable cases, both going through the court system at the moment. Okay, different states. One's in Indiana, one's in Idaho. But what I'm saying is there's a lot less people feeling sorry for Richard Allen. Like, I made a couple of videos on this channel, Michelle Walks, last week, or maybe it was the end of the week before. I'm not sure. Time's run away with me. And I was saying, look, the way that Richard Allen is looking, we've got to keep this guy alive, because there's no justice. There's no justice. If Richard Allen dies at his own hand, or he starves himself to death, there is no justice for Abby and Libby if Richard Allen does not make it to court and does not have a fair trial. And they weren't nasty comments. Don't get me wrong. They weren't nasty comments, but people were saying, oh, Michelle, you're falling for his manipulation. You know, Michelle, you're being too soft on him. Well, all right, then I'll throw it right back at people, just general people, not any one person, just general people. I'll throw it right back at the community who said to me, you're being too soft on Richard Allen, that he's manipulating the system. Well, all right, if he's manipulating the system, he's doing it very well, because he has lost a colossal amount of weight and he looks like a broken man. If that's an act, then good on him. He should win an Oscar, because it's a very good act. But why is the same community not falling, that believe that they're not falling for Richard Allen's manipulation, and that people like me are being too soft on Richard Allen? But then at the same time, that same community is saying we're being too hard on Bryan Kohberger. Where Bryan Kohberger, yes, he's in solitary. He's got a jail cell to himself, but he's in a small jail where people can talk to him. He's got a TV in his cell, right? He's got a TV to himself. He can watch however many news channels, however many different TV channels he's got access to. And he can turn up in court looking like, all smiling, looks like he's going to church or something. You know, he's dressed up. He's, you know, very polite, very formal, but he's enjoying it. He's enjoying it. Absolutely, Vincent. If we want to see Richard Allen broken, we should also want to see Bryan Kohberger broken. For the record, I don't want to see either of them broken. I think we should treat prisoners who have not yet been convicted, right? We should treat them fairly. We should treat them fairly across the board. And we should, obviously, if they require protective custody, we give them protective custody, but we look after them, because we want their mental health to be good, or else we get into a situation where justice is delayed. Look at Laurie Vallow. Look at Letitia Stout. Look at the way Letitia Stout tried to play the system until the judge said, no more. You are competent to stand trial. Get your ass in the courtroom. No more delays. Look at what happens when people try to play the justice system. And for me, that's not what Richard Allen's doing. I could be wrong. Richard Allen could be playing a blinder. It could be all an act, and he's losing weight on purpose to make us all feel sorry for him. But we should be treating people who are going through the justice system pre-trial, and that's not just in America, not just in Idaho or Indiana or anywhere else. In my country as well, I say the same. We should treat prisoners who are denied bond, we should treat them with some comfort. Not that we give them all mod cons, not that we give them a nice comfy settee and we give them, you know, a nice, you know, sea view, and we allow them out for whenever they want. No. They are accused of something that's very serious enough to be denied bond, right? They should wait, go through the system in a timely manner, not play for time like Letitia Stout did, but just go through in a timely manner. But they have to be mentally well enough to participate in their own defence. If they can't, then that is not justice. And you cannot try a dead man, as I say, in Richard Allen's case. But in Kohberger's case, people are falling for this nonsense that his defence are throwing at the public. They are throwing the kitchen sink at the public, and people are not now being able to see the wood for the trees. And I made a video last week that had very few views because it was about DNA and it was about the facts, the difference between the testing that's done, SNP testing that's done for forensic genetic genealogy, and the DNA testing that's used to confirm the comparison between two people, the SDR testing. SDR testing is different than SNP testing. And the defence, so back to the court records, the defence has sent this note in, this little note here. How many pages? 8 pages. Not going to read it all. This has been talked about a lot in the media and on social media. This came out the end of last week. So this is the defence's response to the prosecution saying, look, under Idaho Code 16, I think it is, we are not required to give you the details of the people who we found, the innocent people who we found in the DNA database of a genealogy website. They are not required under Idaho law. They are not required to release those people's names. They are not required. So the defense knows the law, surely. So why are they now sending another diatribe in, and people are falling for this kitchen sink approach to justice? You know, we should be laughing at this stuff. We should be saying, oh, his defense are really trying it on. Oh, his defense, come on, you know, yeah, you're working hard, defense. If that's all you've got no chance. But no, they're saying, oh, the prosecution are denying justice. The prosecution are hiding stuff. No, they're not. They're playing by the law. They're playing by the law. They don't have to release the details of testing that was done via a genealogy website. They're not required to give those people's names. They're not even required to give the website. That's law. They're playing by the law. The defense are trying it on, nothing more. So I'll say again what I said in that video, which you may or may not have watched, but the forensic genealogy was done, the genetic genealogy was done via SNP testing to find a familial match, because the DNA that they found on the knife sheath that was left at the scene, they had no way of working out who that person was, because it went through CODIS, law enforcement's DNA database, and the DNA for that male person whose DNA was on that knife sheath was not in CODIS. So what do they do nowadays? What do many cases, many teams, whole cases are being solved after many years by this? It's forensic genetic genealogy. And they take that DNA and they submit it to a website, a genealogy website, and they get matches back. And in this case, it matched to a number of people in Bryan Kohberger's family, and they were able to construct a family tree. And that's how they were able to work out where Michael Kohberger lived. So they were then able to match, they were able to go and get trash out of Michael Kohberger's bin. And yes, they are legally allowed to do that. They're legally allowed to DNA test discarded items from your trash because you no longer want it. They're not breaking into your house, stealing your toothbrush or anything like that. Exactly. That's what they all do, Angel. That's accepted practice now. They go down the genealogy route because there's all of this genealogical information out there, and it can be used. It can be used by private citizens to construct their family tree, to find long lost relatives. You know, a family member of mine who's adopted, she found her birth family through this. She found a half sister, and they've met, and they know each other now. So yes, it's a genetic match. So they were able then to get information from Michael Kohberger's trash, test his DNA, and say, well, Michael Kohberger is the father of whoever this DNA on this knife sheath belongs to. So then they started to watch Bryan Kohberger. And Bryan Kohberger is the only son that we know of Michael Kohberger. The other two children are girls. And it's only then did they start looking at Kohberger. So once they had the match, once they had the match to Bryan Kohberger himself, genetic genealogy becomes irrelevant to the case. I don't understand how people cannot get this through their thick heads. Sorry, but you are. If you can't understand this, I'm sorry. I don't know how many ways I can explain it. Right? They use genetic genealogy to try to find out who this individual is. Once they find out who that individual is, then they begin the investigation. It's a place, it's a tool, it's a technological necessity. If DNA is not in CODIS, that can be used to very good effect to find the person who becomes their suspect. But it's only at that point does the actual investigation into the guilt of that person. I am so rude, but I get so mad. Right? The investigation begins at that point. Once they've got a name, they can then begin the investigation into the potential guilt of that person. Once Kohberger was arrested, now this is the thing, this is the only thing you need to understand. If everything else is just complete gobbledygook to you, this is the only thing you need to understand. That is that once he was arrested, she's not rude, she's northern. We all talk like this round here. I'm surprisingly polite for a northerner. You want to listen to how some people talk. You know, it even makes me blush. Anyway, yes, I am rude. Look, this is the only thing you need to understand if you're a bit thick and you're not getting this at all, and you'll never get it in a month of Sundays. This is what you need to understand. Once Bryan Kohberger was arrested, right, they took a cheek swab. So it's a little swab like a cotton bud. They rub it on your cheek for a few seconds. They put it in a little test tube and they send it off to the lab and they get a DNA profile. That DNA profile was 5.37, I think it was, 5.37 octillion, right? An octillion is a 1 with 27 zeros behind it. Now, a million is a 1 with 6 zeros behind it. All right. So it was not just 1 octillion, but 5 octillions. 5 octillion times more likely that the DNA on the knife sheath was Bryan Kohberger tested from Bryan Kohberger's own cheek, 5 octillion times more likely to be Bryan Kohberger than anyone else on the planet. Now, does anyone want to tell me how many people live on planet Earth? Roughly. I don't want to the exact number, but roughly. How many people live on planet Earth? All right, I'll tell you. It's about 8 billion. A lot, yeah. It's about 8 billion. So not only have they ruled out every single person, it's not 8 million, it's 8 billion. 8 billion. Oh, you got it right, Bob. 8 billion. Right? So we've ruled out every single other person on planet Earth, but we've also got lots of extra because we're working in octillions. We're working in octillions. That's 1 and 27 zeros. So not only have they ruled out every single other person on the planet, they've also ruled out probably every single life form on the planet that's not human. They've probably even ruled out the possibility that the person whose DNA was on the knife sheath comes from an alien planet. I don't know. But it's an unimaginably large number of DNA that they've ruled out. I didn't do the math, but I'll believe you. It's more than 625 times the Earth population plus an extra 15 zeros. Seriously, they've ruled out every other person on the planet. That's a slam dunk. That's a slam dunk. He's guilty. Unless the defense wants to try to say that the DNA got on the knife sheath because Bryan Kohberger, this theory still amuses me. Bryan Kohberger was the DoorDash driver, and the cop moved the DoorDash delivery to a more convenient location, you know, when they went in, because cops do that. Cops move DoorDash, they move takeaways all around, they do that, and then went to touch the knife sheath. No, that did not happen. That DNA on the knife sheath, on the button of the knife sheath, on the clip of the knife sheath. So it's the place that you touch when you're opening the sheath to take out your knife to murder people. You hope the jury understands it. Well, the jury, I'm sure, will understand that they've ruled out every other person. All the prosecution needs to say is we've ruled out every other person on the planet. That's it. They've ruled out every other person on the planet. Yet they are still producing dross like this. I feel embarrassed for them. I feel embarrassed. Listen, the state's latest filing admits that somewhere within all of this, they engaged in investigative genetic genealogy, in inverted commas, like it's not really a thing, using the DNA taken from the button on the sheath, and now claim it was due to the use of this technique that it tipped local law enforcement to investigate Mr. Kohberger. It remains unclear what the police first relied on in focusing their investigation onto Mr. Kohberger. It does not matter. It doesn't matter. It's a perfectly legal way to work out who the suspect is that they need to be chasing to begin their investigation. It's a well-used, very legal way to do this. They're just smarting. Kohberger is smarting because he thought he'd done everything right. Everything right. He thought he was the sharpest tool in the box, and yet he failed at Murder 101. Why did he fail at Murder 101? Because he left the goddamn knife sheath at the scene next to 2 victims. Who does that? A complete clown does that. Now he's smarting that they've got him. They've got him because of this DNA on the knife sheath. So it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what came first, whether they found the Elantra first or the genetic genealogy came first. Doesn't matter. Does not matter. And the investigation does not need to provide that information. They don't need to provide the names and the family trees. If the defense are smarting because they've not been provided with Bryan Kohberger's family tree, why don't you do it yourself? It's not difficult. If you want to spend some time on Ancestry or 23andMe or any other genealogy website, there's a lot of them out there, right? You make the family tree yourself. Get Kohberger to do it while he's sitting around watching TV, watching himself on the news in his nice comfy cell. Get him to do it, right? The prosecution under law is not required to give those names and that family tree. They are not. It doesn't matter. They're not required. So Ann Taylor can sit there. She can sit there. She can jump up and down. She can jump off a chair. She can do whatever she wants. She can scream. She can howl to the moon if she wants. It's not required. That's just a legal way to work out who the suspect is that they need to be chasing. That's all. And then this winds me up like you would not believe. Then the very next sentence says there's no explanation for the total lack of DNA evidence from the victims in Mr. Kohberger's apartment, office, home, or vehicle. But why would there be? Because the murders didn't take place there. Why would there be? It is her job. It is her job. Absolutely, it's her job. But I feel embarrassed for her. This is the point. She's doing her job, but she's got so little to work with because this is a slam dunk investigation. She's got so little to work with. She's now having to just divulge all of this petty nonsense. Just complete petty nonsense. Listen. Xana, Ethan, Kaylee, and Maddie were murdered in 1122 King Road. And they weren't murdered in Bryan Kohberger's apartment. They weren't murdered in his office at work. They weren't murdered in his home, so I assume that means his parents' home, or his vehicle. So why would there be DNA in there? Why would the victim's DNA be in those locations? Well, somebody who was being really sloppy, yes, you might get transferred DNA. Yes, you might do. So if Kohberger didn't understand forensics, right, and didn't bother to change his clothes, didn't bother to wash, then there could possibly be transferred DNA from the crime scene, from the home of the victims, from minute, invisible blood spatter into his vehicle, possibly in his apartment. But I would assume that even a really sloppy killer wouldn't transfer victims' DNA into his office or his parents' home, because it was another month before he went to his parents' home. So presumably he'd washed and changed his clothes by then. Or are the defense really expecting us to believe that Bryan Kohberger would go to work the day after committing a quadruple murder without changing his clothes or washing? That's the only way that transfer DNA would get into his office. And are they serious? Now I'm embarrassed for them. I'm embarrassed for them in suggesting that Bryan Kohberger would wait a month would sit in clothes, would go and socialize. Maybe he didn't socialize, maybe he didn't have any friends, maybe that's part of the problem. But he'd go to work for a month, go to bed, go to sleep, go back to work, do it all again, and then get picked up by his dad, Michael, and drive from Idaho to Pennsylvania, all without changing his clothes or having a wash. No, that's just embarrassing. Ann Taylor, you are an embarrassment to your profession. Try harder. Try harder. That's ridiculous. And yet people are lapping it up. They're lapping it up. They love it. They love it. Do you know what I think he did? Do you know what I think he did? I think he wore those overgarments that, you know, that forensics people do. They wear. I think he wore those. I think he wore those forensic clothes. Certainly overshoes. Now, Dylan said he was wearing black. So if he wasn't able to get the full forensic get-up, right, I think he wore overalls or something that would cover him completely. And then before he got into the vehicle, he took them off. He put them in a bag, right, still with gloves on, put them in a bag before he got into the vehicle. And he then put the bag in the vehicle. Then he drove all around into the middle of nowhere. I think he discarded those items on his long drive home, probably in the Snake River or somewhere, along with the knife. And that's why there's no DNA in his apartment from the victims, because there's none. Because he thought he was being clever by completely covering himself. It didn't even need to be full forensic get-up. All he needed to do was to cover himself completely, wear gloves, and some people in the chat are saying that a glove ripped and that's why he got DNA on the knife sheath. That could be true. That could be possible. That in the melee, one of his gloves ripped, maybe. He did a huge amount of driving, and his car and his phone, right? So his phone was pinging all over the place, and his car was seen all over the place. Come on now. What did he do? Just happened to go out for a night drive, just by chance the same night that his very car was seen on the very road that the victims lived on? Did someone steal his car, go for a joyride, and then take it back? Come on now. This is ridiculous. It's not just the DNA. The preponderance of evidence is huge. It's massive. It's massive. So you cover yourself from head to foot. You take it all off. All of it. You take it all off before you get in your vehicle. As a safety measure, you cover your vehicle in, people have said saran wrap. We call it cling film in the UK. No, cling film would be impossible, right? I can't even cover a sandwich in cling film without it getting all tangled and whatever. But all you need is like dust sheets or something like that. You know, you can get dust sheets for your car. And then you take those out, right? You take your bag out with your murder gear in. And then you take your dust sheets out and you discard them somewhere. So and then as soon as you get home, you don't touch anything at all. You get in the shower and you wash yourself in industrial strength cleaner, like surgeons use. Shower curtain would work, yeah. A couple of shower curtains would work. Yeah. Anything that will cover your car, even just your driving seat. Now, you could put cling film around your steering wheel. And if you have a manual car, your gear stick. So things like that, you cover it. That's why there's no DNA in his vehicle, because he took precautions. Unfortunately, he committed. he went to all this lengths, thought he was really clever, but didn't realize. I mean, even if a glove had ripped and he'd got DNA on the knife sheath, on the button of the knife sheath, it would all have been fine if he hadn't have left the thing there. If he hadn't have left the thing there. Oh, that's hilarious. Yeah, boiler suit. Anything that's going to cover you completely, that you can easily take off. What if he's genuinely innocent? He's not. He's not. But at the same time, he's entitled to a fair trial. He is entitled to a fair trial. And he's getting a fair trial. He's absolutely getting a fair trial. What have they said about Rule 16? Perhaps unsurprisingly, Mr. Kohberger does not accept that his defence does not need this information. It rather obviously falls within the ambit of Rule 16, B, 4 and 5. A fact states briefing makes clear in its kitchen sink approach to their briefing. No, Anne, it's you that's doing the kitchen sink approach to defence. Oh, dear. I mean, so what, right? They could give Anne and the defence. They could give Kohberger the genetic genealogy, but it would all. Why? It doesn't change any of the facts. It doesn't change any of the facts. They're just going by the rule of law. Now, if the judge rules that they've got to provide it, then I'm sure that they'll have to provide it. I'm on a roll tonight. I am on a roll. I'm telling you, it's got on my last nerve. It really has. The state apparently only wants to prevent Mr. Kohberger from seeing the IgG profile. How many other people the FBI chose to ignore during their investigation? Again, once Bryan Kohberger was arrested, they need not look at anyone else, because once they got that DNA swab from Bryan Kohberger himself, they ruled out by that one single test every other person on the planet. Every other person on the planet they ruled out. So it doesn't matter how many other suspects they looked at, how many other of Bryan Kohberger's relatives they had on a list. Doesn't matter. Because once that arrest was made, once that buccal swab, that cheek swab was done, once that DNA result came in, that was it. Slam dunk. Done. Amen. Done. I just can't. I just can't with these people. I just can't. It's hard to understand why Mr. Kohberger should be the one to suffer because these companies and our government choose to either mislead or not educate the public. I need to get the world's smallest violin out here. What does this matter? Doesn't. You're just trying it on. You're just trying to get the public on your side. And sadly, the public are not intelligent enough to see what they're doing. Just waiting for the trial. I can't wait. I can't wait. I really can't wait for this one. I really can't wait for this one. I've got one other thing to show you. And then What time is it? So court, what's 1:30 Idaho time in my time? 9:30? No. 8:30? No. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. 8:30 or 9:30. So I'm going to go after I show you this one more thing. And I can't find it. Hold on. I just found this hilarious. I just found this hilarious. No, it's not that. Oh, where is it now? I can't see for looking. You've probably seen it or heard it anywhere, but hold on. I thought I had it pulled up and I've just not. I think I've just closed it before I went live. So it's not that. It's not that. It's not that. I'll find it in a minute. I'll just talk a little bit about the what is in court for today. So in court today, Judge John Judge will hear arguments on the defence's request for a stay of proceedings. Bryan Kohberger's defense filed the motion for a stay earlier this month, arguing that the case should be put on hold. So the defense wants the case put on hold. So they do not believe that the grand jury was legal. They believe that the grand jury was a big, fat, nothing burger and should be stricken from the record. So the grand jury indictment. So Mr. Kohberger is seeking the complete record of the grand jury proceedings from the prosecutors. Right. Grand jury, this is something else. This is something else that the defense embarrassingly are trying on. The grand jury is not an arena where the defense can participate. All the grand jury is for, is for the grand jury to determine whether or not there is enough evidence to take the case further. There's nothing wrong with the prosecutors taking the case to a grand jury and indicting him. They do not need to provide a complete transcript of what happened or what was said at that grand jury. But that yet they're arguing that it's crucial for him to fight the indictment against him. No. So because they're arguing that the grand jury was a big fat nothing and they should be able to have all of the proceedings from it, or else it's all a big illegal thing, which it isn't, they now want a stay in proceedings where the court stops and suspends the case either temporarily or indefinitely. This is how desperate they are. This is how desperate they are. Unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. It really is unbelievable. I just don't know. I don't know what to tell you. It's just really, really shocking. I just find that really shocking. Now I'm going to find this last thing, but we'll see what the court says. We'll see what the court says. Oh, where's that last article that I had? Can't find it. It'll be in the court documents, but I'm getting a bit too tired to even be bothered looking. But anyway, I'll just tell you. You've probably heard it anyway. That there was DNA from other people in 1122 King Road. So there was DNA from several other males in 1122 King Road. So it was a party house. They had friends over. They had parties. But there was only DNA from one male, only one male, on the button of the knife sheath. So it doesn't matter who else's DNA. Right, look, they could have found the DNA from Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, the Tooth Fairy. They could have found DNA from King David, from King Solomon. They could have found DNA from Jesus Christ himself. And none of it would have mattered. None of it would have mattered. Do you know why? Because only one person's DNA was on that knife sheath. And do you know whose DNA was on that knife sheath? Having ruled out every other person on the planet and probably every other intelligent life form in the entire universe, only one person remains standing. Last man standing is the man who's guilty, and that is Bryan Christopher Kohberger. Doesn't matter how many other people's DNA was in that house. And yet people are still believing that he's innocent. It's Bryan. He's toast. Thank you, Elizabeth. He's toast. He is. He's toast. And even people who are very, very, they're toasted to the point of burning. Even them are people who are entitled to a defence and a fair trial. So it's fine. It's fine that his defence are doing all this. I'm sure they don't care that I'm embarrassed for them. But please, you people, please see through it and stop these ridiculous threads. It's rampant on Twitter, absolutely rampant on Twitter. I'm going to give Twitter a break for a while because it just drives me insane. Absolutely rampant that Kohberger is innocent, and these ridiculous theories to try to justify why his DNA was on that knife sheath and why there's no DNA anywhere else and who else's DNA might be in that house. It doesn't matter who else's DNA is in that house. Doesn't matter. All right? Really doesn't matter. It's all about the DNA on the knife sheath that is matched to Bryan Kohberger via his cheek swab. So I rest my case. So I'm gonna go now. I've got my windows open. I bet my neighbours can hear me ranting. Oh God, she's off again. I could steal your kitchen knife and kill someone doesn't mean you did it. You could do, Angel. You could. You could. But in Bryan Kohberger's case, did they also steal his car and his phone? Because that's also what they're saying. So somebody broke into Kohberger's house. All right, let's entertain this possibility as a final thought. So they broke into Bryan Kohberger's apartment in Pullman, Washington. They stole his kitchen knife, which just happens to be a K-bar knife. I don't know about you, but I don't cut vegetables with a K-bar knife. But anyway, they stole his kitchen knife. They stole his car and his phone. All right. And then went and committed a quadruple murder drove all around town, right, all the way south to the Snake River, all the way back again. Phones pinging left, right, and centre. Cars being caught on this surveillance and that surveillance and the other surveillance. And they went back, put the kitchen knife back, put the car keys back. Bryan Kohberger just slept through it all, none the wiser. Put his phone back where they found it. Come on now, is that logical? Does that stole his eyebrows? Yeah, they put on fake eyebrows to look like Kohberger. All right, is that logical? Ask yourself, is that logical? Is that more likely to have happened than Bryan Kohberger committed the murders? Which is more likely? Which is more likely? I'd do a poll, but I can't because I don't have my other computer, so I'm just on StreamYard. He didn't sleep through. Yeah. And then because you realized that somebody had stolen your car, your phone, and your kitchen knife, and you also realized that they left your kitchen knife's knife sheath at the scene, so you're really worried now. So because you're worried that your DNA is going to be at the scene, you don't bother reporting your stolen car, your stolen phone, and your stolen kitchen knife, and then bringing it back, and you don't report it because you're scared. All right, and then you have to go through a whole month of having to wear gloves to sort your trash, and when you go home for Christmas, you even have to do that in Pennsylvania as well. You have to sit there in your boxer shorts with gloves on, sorting out your trash so you don't get DNA on your trash and go and put it in your neighbour's bin. What's more likely? It's much more likely that you did it. You did it, and you're doing that because you don't want to get caught and you think you're so clever. Oh dear. Yeah, if he's found guilty, he'll probably be on death row for 20 years. Yeah, sadly. Yeah, he's guilty. All right, guys, I'm going to go listen to what they say in this court case. I'm sure it'll only be a short hearing. Okay, guys. I shall see you very soon. There'll be a recorded video tomorrow. I don't even know what case I'm going to cover tomorrow. I really don't know. But there will be a recorded video. No lives, though. I've done 3 lives today. Can you believe it? 3 lives. All right, I'm going. All right. Thank you for being respectful, listening to me rant, having a little bit of a chuckle with me, because these things they're just really ridiculous, and you've just got to laugh. I mean, it's an absolutely tragic case of 4 young people being brutally murdered. But when you get embarrassing defenses like this, you just have to laugh. See what JLR said. Dare I? All right, I will. All right, I will. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks as always to the mods, and I shall see you at some point tomorrow. Bye, guys.